Hey, Gene. Yeah, all right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to this place of comfort and challenge, of the familiar and the surprising. I'm Dave Lloyd. My pronouns are he and him and his. I'm a member of the church, and I'll be leading the service today. And our worship associate is Paula Dvorak. Our text services are provided by Gene Schaefer. Our music today is provided by Dennis Seegit and Gene Schaefer. I proposed one song from 1970 to Dennis a couple of weeks ago, and he said he could learn in 2 weeks. And then he said he could do another song also from 1970. The title of our service today is Best Summer Ever. I'll talk about my best summer, and then I'll ask anyone who would like to talk about their best summer to come up and say a few words. So in between listening to the fascinating content of the service and singing 1970 rock and roll songs, you're invited to think back to your best summer and share a glimpse thereof.
Good morning. I'm Paula Dvorak. My pronouns are she and her. There's always a lot going on around the church, and you can read all about it in News and Notes, which arrives in your inbox every Friday. If you would like to receive News and Notes, you can go to the church website, www.hinsdaleunitarian.org, and click on the Connect button on the top of the homepage. Or we also have the visitors book available in what we refer to as our living room, which is connected to the back of the sanctuary. You can sign up in the visitors book if you're a visitor. You can get a name tag and then get more information about our church's denomination back there. And if you have any questions, please see a greeter or usher. We also have various people with various abilities and various needs during the service. So if you feel the need to get up and walk around, if you need to grab a fidget, if you want to draw, feel free to get up and go to the back of the sanctuary. There are fidgets available in a tray. You're welcome to bring them back to your seat or remain in the living room. Sometimes when I'm not doing service, I like to sit on the floor in the living room because that's more comfortable for me. So I don't think we have any announcements for today. But Reverend Dr. Beth will be back in the pulpit, I believe in 2 weeks. She's currently on vacation. Our summer services are earlier at 10 a.m. We will start at 10:30 in the fall. And this is the time in the service where we invite each other to share our resources to continue the work of this church. Let's say our offering words together. They're in your order of service. This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, with people around us, and with the world. Thank you in advance for your generosity. We light our chalice, the symbol of our church and denomination, with these words: in the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share.
Back in April, I led a service about joy. The question was how to find joy even in this world of ours with all its pressure, gloom, and spite. One of the things I talked about was turning your phone off and putting it away. And if you have to read or listen to the news so you can keep up, take a theme from George Orwell's 1984, where people would take a break from work in the mid-morning and go into an auditorium and practice 10 minutes hate. They would show pictures of the enemies of the state, and people would yell and scream for 10 minutes. And then, having gotten it out of their systems, they would go back to work. So this is the part of the service with 10 minutes hate. The President of the United States is a monster. If he wasn't a dictator, his policies alone would be monstrous. Tariffs to wreck our economy, foreign policy that encourages dictatorships to dominate and invade their neighbors, and encourages mass slaughter in the Mideast, destroying the environment, sending armed thugs into cities and towns to kidnap citizens, turning the country into a police state, appointing the worst possible people to the most important jobs, people who are grossly incompetent or actual Russian agents, and hostile to the agencies that they serve. Add to that he is a dictator, issuing all kinds of illegal orders, defying the courts, taking away the independence of federal agencies. And the Republicans are letting him get away with it. I don't know if you saw this, but there's been a rule since like the 50s that you can't talk about electoral politics from the pulpit in church. And the IRS recently said, oh no, it's fine. Because those people know that those so-called Christian churches will pick up the banner and do it. So, hey, since they said it's okay, no one should ever vote for any Republican ever again. Unless they say Trump is a madman and I oppose everything he's ever done or stood for, they don't deserve our votes. And Democrats are seemingly doing nothing, and how frustrated we all are. But they're constrained by our system, which envisioned that each branch of government would keep the others in check. They didn't count on, back then, that one party would be so much in thrall to one man. They envisioned that Congress, jealous of its own powers, would stop the president from anything that encroached on their own powers. But we know that the Republicans don't care about norms, about history. They're enthralled to one man. If only a few Republicans would vote against the very worst nominees or refuse to vote for legislation, Trump would be a paper tiger. But they have all fallen into lockstep. Not a single Republican has the integrity and courage to stand up for the United States of America. They love their power more than they love their country. And what bothers me, probably more than anything, is that millions of Americans are just fine with all this. Linda Rio said in a church service a couple of weeks ago something that was so profound and concise, that people all over the country want to harm other people, and they're fine when the government does it. These last few years have exposed the racism and hate and mean-spiritedness and evil that is way too common among people in this country. And I don't know how to change it. You can talk about we have to vote these people out of office, we have to change the rules, but how do you change 30, 40 million people? The President of the United States is a rapist. Not my words. A jury found that he had committed sexual assault. He's also a criminal. A jury convicted him of dozens of financial crimes, all felonies. He should be removed from office right now. And here, And I'm going to say this out loud, and I'm on YouTube, so anybody in the world can see and hear this. Donald Trump conspired with his buddy, Jeffrey Epstein, to traffic teenage girls and rape them. If I'm lying, that's slander. So Donnie, go ahead and sue me. If you don't, it's an admission of guilt. But the reasons for hope are these. Rachel Maddow was interviewed by Jon Stewart pretty recently and remarked that nobody except the off-the-wall crazies predicted that Trump would be as bad as he is, or that he would be a dictator. But also, she said, nobody expected the level of protests and rebellion by the American people. The American people have not given up. Every week there are protests all over the country, some small and some large, gigantic, millions of people in the streets. And this crisis, with proof again that Donald Trump is a child rapist, will continue and will not go away. This scandal, this Epstein files, will end up with proof. An article I read recently made this point. When Donald Trump falls, his fall will be sudden and meteoric. Donald Trump has no friends. No one in Washington supports Trump because they like him. They are afraid of the masses of people behind him. When he falls, all the rats will trample each other, getting off the sinking ship. Everyone in the Republican Party will rush to be the first to say, oh, I never really supported him. I saw how dangerous he is. I'm happy to see he's gone. I said back in April that I was hoping to see the turning point. The turning point isn't here yet, but I think it's coming. And in the not too distant future, we will be able to look back on this summer and say, yeah, the turning point was coming. Those are the words of our 10 Minutes Hate. Now let's sing a hymn. This is Let's Work Together by Canned Heat. Dennis and Jean will play the verse once through so that we get to know the tune and the tempo. And then after that, we can all stand now as you're able. All right? Divided we fall. Come on, oh people, let's get on the ball. Let's work together. Come on, let's work together. Now, people, we will stand, every boy, girl, woman, and a man. They sometimes will. The road you travel, it stays all uphill. Let's work together. Come on, let's work together. Now, people, because together we will stand, every boy, girl, woman, and a man. Well, now, it's 2:03 hours. What does it matter now in this life of ours? Let's work together. Come on, let's work together. Now, people, because together we will stand, every boy, girl, woman, and a man. That's it. Way to go, everyone. I'm going to say that's probably the first time in any, I was going to say in a Unitarian Universalist church, in any church, that people have sung Canned Heat. Good for us. We had planned to do this service outside, and of course, once again, it's brutally hot. Good thing there's no worldwide change in how the weather and things go. So I had planned to say, okay, don't close your eyes, but look around. little conversation circle out there is surrounded by trees that are generations old. So close our eyes and picture that space. And think of how decades and decades ago, someone planned that, put in all those trees. And ever since then, a number of people, a parade of people, have participated in maintaining all that space. Led today by Charlie Fisher, who is diligent and highly skilled. And with all the volunteers from this church, in an environmentally friendly way, making sure that everything looks just great. And I had also said, or planned to say, while your eyes are closed, listen. You can typically hear the train over at the train tracks. But all the insects, the non-periodic cicadas, crickets, and all the birds, maybe people walking by. You can't do that in the winter. It's summer. Living is easy. And I invite, for just a few moments, think back a summer that really stands out. Maybe one event, or maybe just the whole summer, maybe where you were in your life, maybe someone that you met, something terrific that you did. Because I will ask people to come up and just share some of those really great summer moments. I'll come back here to this building, because within our walls we enter, bringing us with us joys, concerns, challenges, and blessings. If you have something either weighing or dancing on your heart this morning, you're invited to share it with us and drop a stone or several to symbolize your thinking, your wishes, your desires, your memories.
On Tuesday, I want all of you to send good vibrations to Joe as he celebrates his 85th birthday.
Good morning, I'm Jonathan. I can't top 85. I can do 70. I was out of the country when I actually had my birthday on August 3rd, but I figured I'd bring in some cake and share it with all you guys. So after the service today.
Thanks, both of you. So today's message is best summer ever. And in preparation, of course, I was thinking back over some summers, and there have been some really terrific summers in my life. But I thought, so most recently, you know, what's been going on the last few years? Well, of course, starting in 2020, there have been not a lot of years where the summer's been something to recommend. Certainly not in 2020 itself. And then, as far as my livelihood, people know I'm a bankruptcy lawyer, and you would think that in a time of economic crisis like we had during the pandemic, bankruptcy business would be really good. But it was just the opposite, because the state courts were closed. Nobody was being sued, nobody was being foreclosed, and the government wisely was putting money out there to help businesses keep their employees. So business was really slow, and it was a tough time. And I can't say that any of the summers, 21, 22, were really terrific. So I won't put them in the best. Some did some cool stuff. And 23, business was picking up, and that was good. I was very, very busy at work, and I was working on 2 very toxic cases, fighting with the other side like professional wrestling. I mean, we're bouncing off the ropes and body slams and all that. And the government agency that was supposed to be neutral and sort of act as a mediator, they were right in there with a folding chair hitting me on the back. And there was one particular day in July of 23 where I had a phone conference at 2 o'clock with everybody in the one case, and then a Zoom meeting at 4 o'clock on the other toxic case. And I finished the phone call at 2 o'clock, and somewhere around 3 o'clock, I start feeling flushed, start sweating profusely, start feeling faint, and you know, you put your head down so that it goes away, and it wasn't working. I sort of laid down on the floor saying, okay, this will pass and then I'll be fine. And I called out to my assistant that, okay, if I'm not up and walking around in 10 minutes or so, you might want to call somebody. Well, she's the smart one in the office because she called 911 right away. Ambulance comes. Oh, and so my office is on LaGrange Road, south of downtown LaGrange. And my wife Suzanne was it Prosino's, and she said, and you know, we're sitting there having lunch, and I see this ambulance going by. You know, what's that about? Heading toward my husband's office. So the ambulance gets there, you know, they put me on the cart, they put me in the ambulance, and we're driving. And I'm, you know, feeling pretty faint, and at some point I think I doze off, and suddenly I hear the guy saying, hey, you with us? You with us? I said, yeah. He said, oh, well, your heart just stopped. 2023 was not my best summer. And last year, well, we had the cicadas, so that was cool. That's, you know, every 17 years, that's good. But we had the campaign. And although I was trying to be optimistic, and I preached optimism in the spring, it was really hard to be optimistic. You look at the polls, you know, obsessively every day, several times a day, and you read all the news. And then the debate happens. But okay, they bring in Kamala Harris as a new candidate, and all these people are excited, and they're putting money in. But the polls were not changing. And I was really, really concerned at that time, trying to put on a bright face. But you just knew that this was going to be really, really tough. And also, I've talked about my garden a lot, our garden. We spend a lot of time in the garden, and I get a lot of peace and a lot of commitment and achievement out of our garden. We have a vegetable garden. We have all these native plants all over the place. And every year there's a little less grass and a little more plantage. And last year the garden just really struggled. It was droughty. And we have beans every year. And you know, a fresh green bean, not cooked, just pulled right off the stem is really, really nice. And we have tomatoes and numerous varieties of tomatoes because Dennis Seegett goes out to Contrary Mary's in Mokina and brings back all these cool heirloom varieties of tomatoes. Tomatoes and beans were really not doing well. Very, very few, and you know, the drought, and they were attacked by monsters. And just in general, it was a tough year for the garden as well. So I can't put 2024 anywhere near the list. But then thinking about this year, now, this is a tough year. This is a horrible year. And it started in November. But by now, there are no surprises. We know how bad it is. Each day, it's something that might be shocking, but it's not surprising. And I really do mean it. This summer, it has felt like we're reaching the turning point, that this monster will fall. And it's given me courage, and it's given me hope and optimism. And in my job, once 2023 happened, I said, this is nuts. I can't do this job in the way I've been doing it. My job is literally killing me. So I've scaled back tremendously. I'm on the glide path that I hope to be able to shut down my office sometime in the near future. Sue's like drumming her fingers, like, yeah, right. It's hard. When you work for a place and you want to quit, you go into the boss and say, okay, Friday's my last day. If you have partners in a business, you get them together and say, okay, I'm leaving. You guys will have to pick things up. But when you work for yourself and you're the only one in charge, it's tough. You can't just walk away. And it took me a while last year to figure out, how exactly to do this. And I'm doing it, and it's sort of according to the way I want to. So that's okay. And there's nobody hitting me with folding chairs anymore. And then the garden, of course, this has been just a banner year for the garden. The tomatoes are big, and there's lots of them. They're mostly green, but you can't wait. And the beans, like, we got beans coming out of our ears. Never eaten so many beans. And the native plants are all doing great. A couple of stories. Last year I collected a lot of seeds from a lot of our plants. And I planted them in several different ways. One, yogurt cups filled with dirt, stuffed like halfway into the ground. Because I've read and heard, and people have said that whatever is closest to the conditions outside, that's how you should grow native seeds. So I did that, and then in some closable little pot things. And some of them did okay. I moved some of them into some pots, and they were doing really well. And then we went on vacation for 1 week, and it was one of those really hot weeks, and we come back, and everything's all dead. Like, oh, what a disaster. But there was, some of the yogurt cups still had some plants in them, and I put them in pots, and I put them into to a planter, and they're doing really well. And I've put out like 36 just of the one variety. And as I said, the vegetables are doing great: carrots, parsnips, herbs, salad. And another native plant story. For years I had these shrubs, a couple of them. Shrub is called shrubby St. John's wort. It's a nice kind of round bush with beautiful, bright yellow flowers. And they did great, and they looked wonderful in front of the fence, in front of the yard. They were getting crowded out by something else, so I moved them, and that year was a drought year. And I didn't keep up on the watering, and they really suffered, lost most of their branches, and each one just had one scraggly branch left. So I moved those over to the rock garden that we have, because they look like they should be in a rock garden. But the next year and the year after, I saw all these little plants, and it looked like little baby shrubby St. John's worts. And it's a fact that when plants are heavily stressed, they put a lot of energy into flowers so they can make seeds. I know that plants don't know things. To say plants want to do something is anthropomorphic, but it's like they know that they're suffering, so they want to have as many descendants as possible. So where they had been, there were all these little shrubby St. John's worts. And a couple years ago, I moved a bunch of them into various places in the garden. And this year, they all bloomed. And it's all this bright yellow over here and over here. Those plants came back just for us. So when I think back in my youth, back when I was a younger adult, there were a lot of great summers, but you remember what's happening now much more vividly. And I have to say that at least among the very top, or maybe the best summer ever, is this summer. And when I was thinking about what sort of service to do, I thought, well, I have to share this. Because our job is, part of it, challenge people, get people to think, give people goals to strive for, but also to share the joy. And I wanted to share the joy of this, my best summer ever. So, how about you all? Who can share a story? This year, some other year, we've got a microphone, we'll come back and meet you, so you don't have to walk all the way up, and share your story of your best summer.
Well, now for something completely different. I can't choose one summer. I will choose the summers from 1947 to 1967 with a list. Leave after breakfast, come home for dinner, build a fort in the near prairie, take snakes from that fort and bring it to my sandbox and make castles for the snakes. Play in the puddles until our neighbors got polio. Jacks, hopscotch, roller skating on sidewalks, playing in the sprinklers, making a tent with a blanket over the clothesline, dressing up, and one little girl, Bernadette, she always dressed as a nun. And my father always said, don't let the kids in the garage. So I told her, there are rats in the garage, don't go in there. And Bernadette said, I want to go in there and be killed so I can be with Jesus. We had a lemonade stand, my sister and I, and we waited for the mailman who would give us a quarter, and that would be it for the day. After rain, heavy rains, I'd collect night crawlers so we could go fishing. We'd decorate our bikes. At night, we took over the street. In those days, there were much fewer cars. Red Rover, Sky Blue, Statue Maker, Waterfall, collect lightning bugs to make a lantern. I was never bored. Finally, the best day of the summer was always getting on the Western Avenue bus. Does anybody know where I was going with this? Riverview. The best day next to Christmas was spending all day and into the night at Riverview. Best summers ever.
Okay, so first off, Miss Pat, we have similar summers in my house. You're welcome to join us. I think I'm doing something right then. I wasn't gonna say anything, but oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't gonna say anything, but Mr. Dave really had me thinking. This is one of my best summers as well. I'm Aaron, by the way. My son has CP. It's been his strongest year. He's going on 9 years old, so he's really fun. My husband and I both have the summers off because we work in school, so the three of us have just played sports and been a family and hung out. But the other thing that Mr. Dave really made me think about is it's like every day I'm like, how can I come home to this beautiful house, air conditioned, food, while all these people are struggling, and it really eats me up. But I come here and I see all of you who feel just like I do, and it inspires me. And so on top of what has been personally gratifying, it's also nice to know that I have found this place where people are as angry as I am and doing something about it. So that's, I think, why this is a really good summer for me. I also cry a lot, so don't worry. I'm a very sentimental person, but yeah, this has been a really good summer. So that's all.
Summer 2009, my daughter was about 6, and she was really into turtles, and we went to Jekyll Island, Georgia. This was the playground for, I think, the Gilded Age millionaires, but now it's just a wonderful place to visit. Anyway, we got up at dawn, and we went with a guide to look for loggerhead turtle hatchlings, and you can see they're protected along the beach, and there was one where he could see that they had hatched, but then he digs a hole and tries to get any stragglers, and he kept coming up with sad, dead hatchlings that didn't make it out. And then all of a sudden, he's got his hand and he said, I've got one. And he goes like that, and it's just this hatchling baby that's just fluttering around, and then sets it down, and he finds about 5 of them, and we're just following them as they're making their way to the shore, to the water, and it was just incredibly exhilarating, and it's just a really memorable sharing it with my daughter and my wife. It was wonderful.
So my recollection is about a summer, kind of in the time frame of when our closing song was still on the radio, so I think the early 1970s. And I grew up in southern Connecticut, not too far from Long Island Sound. And in the summer, it was not unlike this there a lot of the time, and not many people had air conditioning, so it was tough. And I had a group of friends. We didn't even go to school together. We just all came from the same town, and we ranged in age from like 13 to 17. And we would, one of them, his father owned a Pontiac dealership, so we always had these really nice, you know, like loaner cars that the dealer's family gets to drive. And we would pile into his car and drive down to Misquamicut Beach in Rhode Island, which is about a 90-minute drive, you know, depending on how fast you're going. And we'd just hang out at the beach, you know, for 2 or 3 hours, and then we'd pile into his car and drive home. And it was kind of a magical time, you know, that you were sort of independent and you didn't really have many cares in the world. I mean, there were cares for all of us at home, and it was like the one time we got to be elemental and just be who we were and enjoy life. And it wasn't a big deal, but it was very, I'm amazed at how well I remember it, so that's all.
I have my personal remarks, but first I have to comment on the love of turtles. And Jekyll Island is particularly of interest to this church because I think 99% the architect of this church, Charles Alexander, this was his penultimate work before he closed his career building the clubhouse at Jekyll Island. So it's a place for people at this church to check out. But the theme, the reference in this program is to songs of my youth and summer. Alice Cooper, School's Out for Summer. And I remember it was a friend of mine, I went to his garage. He was particularly talented with small engines. He went on to manage a hardware. Lost him we rolled to age 54, he died determined to be leukemia. But he was a very good friend, it was a great neighborhood. And we got to his garage and WLS or WCFL, our little transistor radio, and we were, school's out for summer. And I felt so cool.
Back in the days of VCRs, someone said you need to watch Somewhere in Time. It's that Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour movie. I only remember celebrity names, so if I don't remember your name, just know that you're not a celebrity yet. Anyway, and I watched it and I said, where did they film that? It's so beautiful. And it was Mackinac Island. I had to wait till the end credits to find out. I said to my son, we're going. So it was like the way I drove and stop at every rest stop, we stayed in Traverse City or something. Anyway, we got there and oh my gosh, it was great. And of course you could rent bikes. We didn't bring bikes because I didn't. And so I spent every penny I had renting bikes for the few days we were there, and it was heaven. We would ride up to the middle and down and around, and I've got great pictures of my son along the shore. And it was just so beautiful. The water was just like you'd see in the Caribbean. It was blue. I've got pictures of Anyway, it was one of my favorite memories. It was just beautiful.
At our age, we have many memorable summers. And yeah, I remember collecting berries, going camping with my family at the dunes. That was the place to go. You collect berries and have my mother make pancakes with fresh blueberries. Was wonderful. Then climbing the dunes. And then during my young adult years, counseling at camp what a wonderful experience that was for 2 summers. And now at our age, I think we have just experienced one of the best summers. It culminates a lot of years that we have spent at Chautauqua. And we probably won't go next year. We're just getting to the point where we can't walk the distances. So it was a very special summer, not saying goodbye, but hope to see you again next year after 25 years at Chautauqua. And this year at Chautauqua was wonderful. We stayed at the UU house, as we always do. And Tracy and Dave Potoff were there. And it was a wonderful week. It was a week of Kwame Alexander, the writer, and Amna Nawaz from PBS. And ask Tracy when she comes back from her vacation. She had a picture with Amna Nawaz, so ask her about it. But it's a culmination of many wonderful summers, so I hope we can get back to that.
Thank you for that. You inspired me. I've been wanting to go to that Chautauqua in New York. My first experience was in Boulder, Colorado. Okay, thank you. So, Pat inspired me to think of the summers of my youth. And when I was 12, I think I had just finished 6th grade, and I think the song was, "Baby, Won't You Light My Fire." I think that was 68, the other doors. And so my best friend's father, there were 2 people in my life that if they had not, oh, I might get emotional. If they had not been in my life, I don't know what would have happened. One was my 6th grade teacher, Mentha George. She was a cuckoo bear. She was the only black person in our school. She had it tough. And then Mr. Piazza was my best friend's father. And they were, Mr. Piazza was a teacher. And so in the summer, every weekend, they went, I'm from San Francisco, they went up to Kenwood, you know, where the wine country, Sonoma, where his mother had this little farmhouse. And each weekend, one of the kids got to bring a friend. And for some reason, I always got to go every weekend. And I noticed it, but I didn't know how to make sense of it. So when we would get up there, they were young family. They had all 3 children before they were 20. And we'd get up there, and all the adults, it wasn't like it is now. You got your own pool in your backyard and footprint, you know, you would know, lot line to lot line, lots of land. And the parents went to Paradise Pool. That's where everybody went. And most parents seemed to be young then, and they would play board games, and they weren't drinking too much. There were no cell phones, no computers, and Mr. Piazza would give each of us 3 dimes. And what could you get for 3 dimes? You could buy a popsicle, you could buy an ice cream thing, you could play pinball, and there was another category. And then one summer, it was that summer, because I went several summers with them, they always liked to walk after dinner. So we were walking at sunset on an old road with the grasses were like wheat colored, the temperature was wonderful. And I heard Mr. Piazza telling some of the other adults, well, Patty Gallagher, me, she got really good grades this year. And now I'll reference Mentha George. Mrs. George always was generous with grades, and I don't think I deserved the grades I got. But he's telling them she got 8 A's and 4 B's. And I didn't know what to make sense of somebody praising me like that. And what he would do with his children, he would give each child, for every A, they'd get $1. So he gave me $8 that summer, but that wasn't the story. The story was, I wouldn't have been able to identify it then. Ooh, that I was seen, I was known, I was heard, and without that, I don't know what would have happened going forward. So thank you for listening to my emotional story. It really was wonderful.
Hi, I'm Kathy. I was going to talk about being a Girl Scout and going to Girl Scout camp every summer up in northern Wisconsin, and then later working as a camp counselor up there. It was just magical, living in a tent all summer. It was green, it was lush. We sang, we boated, we swam. So yes, that, but as I was thinking about it, actually my favorite memory from the summer is July 25th, 2004. It's when Jeff and I got married in Jane and Dave's garden. If any of you, I'm sure many of you remember their garden. It was an absolutely magical experience. It was so beautiful.
I was going to scare Paula by talking about the summer of '69, but I probably shouldn't. It wasn't summer, but it was the year that we went with Paula and my grandchildren to Disney World. And then from there, Paula, Janice, and I went up to Savannah, and it was wonderful. But the interesting thing about Savannah is nobody in Savannah is from Georgia. But it was a wonderful experience that I'll always remember.
I was just going to mention that for me, I think that my best summer ever is more the summers that I get to go to concerts and see live music. There's a term called collective exuberance that's associated with the experience of going to a concert and being with other people who, like the same music, the dancing, the singing. And so those have been the times, I think, in the summer that have spoken to me. I'm wearing my James Taylor shirt from when we went to Wrigley Field to see him, and we've been to Billy Joel, James Taylor, Jason Mraz, Taylor Swift, pretty much from the smallest concert you could think of to the biggest, literally. And just the collective joy that happens in those moments is so powerful and meaningful. I think experiencing live music, especially outside, which, in Chicago we really only get to do in the summertime, is just such a meaningful and deep experience for me. Okay. Please join in these words as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of the truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world.
These are our closing words. One of the things that makes this summer so good for me is that I've worked very hard the last few years on dealing with the hate and the trouble and the strife. And I've talked about this before, the writing of Marcus Aurelius, who was Roman emperor and also the best known writer of the Stoics, has been very helpful. Today, Stoic means unemotional, not affected by things, but that's not the original meaning of Stoicism. Stoicism was really a way to go about your business, enjoy your life, doing everything that you need to, but don't let what's bad outside come inside. It's very much like Buddhism. Your feeling, your thinking is affected much more by you than by what's out there, if that's how you make it. And he has a couple of very short, pithy sayings. And when I see the monsters in the world, or I have a conversation and someone says, how can they do that? You know, we're always looking for reasons why people do things. And I say, well, because they're monsters. And Marcus Aurelius says this: whether you conceive of the universe as being rational and well-ordered, or chaotic and dangerous, it is the way the universe is. The universe is this way. Will you be angry for the universe being in its nature? And when you deal with other people, no matter how toxic, how horrible they are, he says, will you be angry at another person for acting according to their nature? They decide how they treat you. You decide how you react. So there are steps. And the first step is to get over that, and then you can enjoy joy and have your best summer ever. So let's sing a hymn about the summertime. Stand if you're able, and again. Dennis and Jean will go through the tune once so that you get to know the tune and the tempo, and then we'll sing. Yep, yep. You can do a solo. Or after the fifth. Right now. With the pause. Oh, with the pause. After 5. In summertime, when the weather is hot, you can stretch right up and touch the sky. When the weather is fine, you got men or you got women on your mind. Have a drink, have a drive, go out and see what you can find. If your friends are here, take them out for a ride. If it starts to rain, you can go inside. Speed along the lane, do a ton or a ton and 25. When the sun goes down, you can make it good and they lay by. We're not threat people, we're not dirty, we're not mean. We love everybody, but we do as we please. We're always happy, life's so regular, it's our philosophy. Sing along with us, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. When the winter's here, yeah, it's party time. Bring your bottle, wear your bright clothes, and a simultaneous time. When again, we'll go driving, or maybe we'll settle down. We ain't rich, but we're nice. Bring your friends and we'll all around the town. We're not singing yet. We're on a break. There's no music. Okay. Summertime when the weather is hot, you can stretch right up and touch the sky. When the weather is fine, you got men or you got women on your mind. Have a drink, have a drive, go and see what you can find. If you remember the original version, I did have to change some of the lyrics to take the most sexist stuff out.